Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I thought I'd do something a little bit different, and following on from a couple of videos that I've done, I thought this might be something could be quite interesting. I haven't seen this being done on any other model railway YouTube channels, but what I'm going to do is today I am going to compare a very old release with a much more recent release and see how much more do we get for our money when we're buying a new locomotive. Throughout watching YouTube videos and comments, especially YouTube videos over the last 5, 6, 7 years, one thing I can take from it is spending huge money on brand new leases does not completely guarantee that you're going to have trouble-free running. And conversely, spending smaller amounts of money on very much older releases doesn't mean that you're going to have poor running. So this is something I thought I'd take a look at and see, you know, especially for new modelers and people that want to get back into the hobby. You know, we have to keep our feet firmly planted on the ground and be realistic about what kind of money we're spending. So I'm going to compare two locomotives. One is a 1986 produced Lima Class 73 Broadlands, and I'm going to compare it with a 2015 release by Hornby. It's a Class 66. Now, the Hornby Class 66, we all know that Hornby inherited the Lima tooling, and I know that Lima produced a Class 59 and they produced a Class 66. As far as my research has taken me, I know that they did produce a Class 66 Lima. So you would imagine that this is Hornby producing this Class 66 from the Lima tooling. So they are equal in some ways. But when you think about it, when they inherit the tooling, really all they're doing is producing a body shell. So what kind of improvements, or you know, how much more can the new models give you compared to the old models? And there obviously is going to be some very striking differences between them over like a 30-year period, because that's kind of about the gap between these two locomotives. Obviously there's going to be improvements in the paintwork. I mean, it's quite obvious. Nearly 30 years, obviously the techniques in producing the paints and applying them, it's got to be improved. And then in terms of motor, obviously the motors and the technology over that 30-year gap, there has to be improvements. But we're gonna do this just for the heck of it and see how we get on. And I'll give some background on both models, and then what we'll do is we'll do a bit of running on the track of both locomotives, see how they compare, and we'll do a bit of slow speeds running, and we'll see what you think. You know, are we getting more for our money now, or is it pretty much the same as it was 30 years ago? Okay, let's crack on. Now, if we just take a look at the Lima Class 73 first. Okay, first things first. This is one of only two locomotives I have here in the collection that I did have when I was a young teenager. I'm guessing I got this in 1986. I thought I actually had it earlier, but from my research, this was produced in 1986 by Lima. So it has the Lima pancake motor, and if you look underneath here, let me just see. Yeah, on the motor bogie here. So this would have had traction tires, and I removed them. This actually runs perfectly okay without traction tires. So the Lima model had traction tires. Obviously it has the likes of a wide tension lock coupling. Another thing about it is, actually if you look at it there, the paintwork has actually held up quite well. I mean, this model is nearly 40 years old. There's a tiny little bit of chipping, but overall, if you look at the paintwork, it looks pretty good, and there is quite good detail on the roof. I mean, that is actually textured. They put a representation of the fan in there. Some nice grille work. I mean, they've picked out the rails on the doors. The printing is pretty good. Those little, I don't know if you call them emblems, little flags there, they're very nicely detailed. You know, the printing is pretty good on it. You've got these grills here. The bogies are pretty nicely done. They did put some separately fitted parts in it. Now, it actually is missing some of the horns, but they were on it. Don't forget, it is 40 years old. There's one left. I might be able to get some replacements. They put separately fitted detail here on the ends, both ends. It actually has the overhead warning flashes on it. Pretty good. For the time, 1986. The other thing I wanted to mention was there's no lights. No lights on the Lima models. I don't think they ever, maybe on the later models they put lights on them. So overall, I mean, the paintwork is good. Even back then it ran very well. Separate fitted details. Nice details put on it. So overall, Lima did a pretty good job. So let's have a look at the Hornby locomotive now. Now I have the Hornby locomotive off to one side. Before we just have a quick look at it, here's the box. Now if you look at this box, she's actually DCC ready, and that's something I wanted to mention is I have fitted a chip to the Lima locomotive, and I bought a chip and put it in the Class 66, so they're both equal in that regard. But as I said, if you look at the box here, looking at the box all over, okay, nothing on the back, nothing on the ends. This does not say Railroad or Railroad Plus or nothing on it. So this is part of the main range. It's not a railroad, it's not aimed at modelers starting off or entering. It's not a budget model. This is part of the main range. So now let's have a look at the locomotive itself. And here it is. And as we said, yes, the paintwork is very nice. I mean, it's a very vibrant colour, but yeah, it's okay. So how will this paintwork hold up to 40 years down the road, like the Lima? I don't know. We don't know. But yeah, there you go. Now, obviously, it doesn't have a pancake motor. I presume it has either a 3-pole or a 5-pole motor. I don't know. But some people were saying to me in the comments that some of the Hornby releases were saying that they had a 5-pole motor, and they didn't. They actually had a 3-pole. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not, but that's very interesting. So, like the Lima model, oh, look at that. This has traction tires. If you look at the couplings, yeah, they're a little bit more narrow than they are at the Lima, but not so much. And another thing I meant to mention about the Lima, obviously Lima locomotives don't have sprung buffers. This doesn't have sprung buffers. The printing's pretty good. It's quite nicely done, the numbering and the labels. Well, I wouldn't say it's a million miles better than the Lima one. It's quite fine. It's okay. Those aren't separately fitted handrails there. It has grills exactly like the Lima one. Obviously the roof is a bit more advanced. It has that textured piece. The Lima one had a textured piece. That's separately fitted. And of course it has the very unusual Class 66 exhaust. That would have been on the Lima release whenever it came out. Underframe detail, it's okay. The bogies on it, they're grand, but they're, if you look at the Lima one, it's got pretty good intricate bogie detail. I know it is a different class of locomotive. Look at that. Yeah. So we'll bring this Hornby back in here. So, like the Lima one, doesn't have sprung buffers. It's got traction tires. The detail. Oh, meant to say, Lima locomotives never came with working lights. Maybe some of the later ones. This doesn't have working lights. These are just kind of painted details. They're not working. I don't think that is a separate fitted piece. Maybe a small separately fitted piece there. Has the overhead working, or overhead warning labels. Maybe a bit of a lamp iron there. Yeah, but overall, for a main range model, you know, it has traction tires. Doesn't have sprung buffers. It's no more heavier than the Lima locomotive, and nowhere on this box says railroad. So it's quite interesting. If you put both models side by side here, try and put them side by side. The paintwork, I mean the Lima locomotive paintwork, it's stood up to the rigors of time. You know, I had this model when I was a kid. My nephew had this model for, I would say, at least 15 years more, but it's held up pretty well. In terms of the motor, the mechanism, now, I have this locomotive since, let me see, about 2020. It would have been around 2020. And it runs fine. It actually runs perfectly fine. But one thing I can tell you about the Lima locomotive is, I'm going to show you this now. When I had it as a kid, and then my nephew had it, and then I reacquired the locomotive, the motor hasn't been changed. Let me see if I can get the, I'm going to get the body off here and just show you. That is the original motor. The only thing I did to that motor was I did the Mike's Movies once-off Lima service on it. So got a complete motor stripped down. It was put in an IPA bath and cleaned really well. You can do that to any Lima. Thoroughly recommend that video. But that's the original motor. So I can tell you that this Lima locomotive has run perfectly well for nearly 40 years. And of course, I fitted a decoder to bring it up to modern day standards. Very easy to service. One thing I want to say about the difference between the two of these locomotives, I'll just get the body on that now properly. 1 second. So, this is easy to service. If you ever need to clean this, see the bogie there? 2 screws. Very easily taken out. This bogie then drops away and you can work on it. You can clean the wheels, clean the pickups. Very, very easy. But, and I'm going to bring in the Hornby locomotive here. So which end is the motor end? Here we are. Bring this motor end. Now I'll see if I can show you. I might have to do another shot of it. I actually had to change the traction tires. They split at one point. Very, very thin. No big deal. Now, there There it is there. You see that? To get this bogie off, it has these clips. There's one there, and there's one there. I can just see it through the viewfinder. You have to be so careful undoing those clips. They are so tight, and they're made of plastic. They're made of plastic, and if you aren't very careful undoing those clips, they're going to break, and I don't know how you would get that bogie frame back on. So in terms of servicing, it's not as versatile as the Lima. So there you go. That's the difference in the visual appearance, the body work and the details. Let's put them on the track and see the difference in the performance and see how they stack up to each other. Okay, let's crack on. So let's see how we get on with the slow speed. So here's the Hornby 66 on the track. Going to apply a bit of power. Try and get her running really slowly, really smoothly, and see how we get on. So, is that as slow as I can get her? She's not bad. She has exactly the same chip in the 66 as we have in the 73. It's just the standard Hornby decoder. Yeah, overall I think she's pretty smooth and steady. That's not bad, is it? Right, let's put the 73 on and see how we get on. Now we have the Lima Class 73 on the track. Let's give it a little bit of power, see how its slow speed performance holds up. It's got the standard Hornby chip and its original ring-filled motor. Oh, I don't think that's too bad at all. Not by my reckoning. Let's put this down here. There we go. I actually don't think that's too bad at all. On regular running, I mean, the Hornby locomotive, the Class 66, is pretty smooth. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's smooth and steady. I really like the look of the 66 on the track. And she's quite smooth. This is our Lima. I wouldn't be upset about that kind of running. A little bit of motor noise, but I can live with that kind of thing. Now, I like my locomotives running nicely. I don't see much difference in the running quality between the two of them. Let me know if you do. I'll try and keep this camera steady. So here we are right back at the beginning. So let's go back to what we said at the beginning of the video. If you're spending huge amounts of money on brand new locomotives, is that going to guarantee you trouble-free running? Well, no. And if you're spending much less money on much older releases, does that mean you're going to have reliability issues and problems in running? Well, no, it doesn't. In other words, it is possible to run a model railway running older locomotives. And are the manufacturers actually offering you more than these older models? Well, in the terms of this Hornby Class 60 retooled from the old Lima molding, very little more, very little. I mean, I can see no issues with the running on this Lima. They're both on par, both have decoders, and yes, the paintwork is nice on the newer model compared to the much older release, but how will it hold up in 40 years time? Will that motor hold up in 40 years time? I can guarantee, because here we have the proof that the motor in this Lima has been running for 40 years trouble free. And if you're going to keep on servicing this Hornby locomotive, those clips on the bogie, how long are they going to last? If you have to service this locomotive once a year, in like 10 years time, are those clips going to be broken and you're going to have to find a spare part to replace? Possibly, possibly not. On this locomotive, I know I can service this locomotive anytime. 2 screws out, no problem. So there you have it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found it interesting, this comparison, and I will try and come out with another video as soon as I can. Until then, everyone take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.